Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with number 113 in the series Viewers Games. It is the turn of Michael. Hey Rick, I've been watching your videos for a while now and love the content. I don't have much to say about this game as I think it speaks for itself. The game was a 3-0 blitz rated on leadchess.org where I had the black pieces, rated around 1650 and my opponent was close to 2100. We went into an advanced Wiener variation of the French defense. The biggest thing I can take from this is to not be intimidated by your opponent's rating. And I've heard the best way to play someone higher rated is to complicate, which is exactly what happened in this game. Things got messy early on and neither side played the best moves. Thank you again for taking time out of your day to analyze and teach all of your viewers a thing or two, says Michael. And as said, Michael was black in this game, so let's look at the position from the black side. He is called Disgruntled Vet on Lichess, had a rating of 1627 when this game was played, and his opponent went under the handle of Kijker Am and had a rating of 2087, so over 450 points more than our hero Michael. White opened e4 and Michael played indeed the French defense. Knight c3 and bishop b4, the Wiener variation. e5, c5, white kicked the bishop took, b takes, and here knight e7 is the main move, but Michael played knight c6, also very common. After knight c6, the queen often goes to g4, but f4 was played by Michael's opponent. Now knight ge7, knight f3, knight f5, putting a lot of pressure on the d4 pawn. White played bishop b5, Michael castled, unpinning the knight on c6. The knight was taken, b takes, and now white castled. Bishop a6, hitting the rook on f1, rook stepped aside, and rook b8. Rooks want to be on open files. g4, kicking that knight, knight drop back, and d takes c5. White grabs a pawn. And there's now the so-called Irish pawn formation. 3 isolated pawns on one file. I'm not sure why this is called the Irish pawn formation, but that's what we call this. Not very strong pawns, obviously, but white has an extra pawn now. Queen a5, immediately hitting 2 of these pawns with the queen, but white defends them both with queen d4. And here, bishop c4. Is a good move with equality, but Michael plays a bad one. He plays f5. And here white can get an advantage with e takes f6 en passant. And if you take with the rook, there is f5. And white is better. And if you take with the pawn instead, then there is rook takes e6. Picking up another pawn and a very good position for white. But after f5, white did not take en passant. He played g5. And that's not a good move, because now there is knight g6, and black is okay again. Bishop d2 developing, bishop c4, nice square for the bishop, h4, rook b2, and rook e to c1. White puts his rook in a very passive position to protect an unimportant pawn. There were more active moves like h5 or queen f2. These moves, as pointed out by the engine. But white decides to protect that unimportant c2 pawn. It's not easy for a chess player to part with his pawns. Rook fb8, the other rook on the open file. h5 now, the knight drop back to f8, knight h4, and rook 8 to b5. Black has total control over the open b file. Black is going to win a pawn back on c5. King f2, and there goes the pawn. Black restores material equality. Bishop e3, and the rook drop back to b5. Don't take on a7, that would be a blunder. After queen takes, bishop takes, there is c5, and black is going to collect this stray bishop with rook a5. The bishop is loose and it will drop. Black wins here. So after rook cb5, you cannot take on a7. White saw that and played knight f3 back. Bishop b3. Making use of the pin. The c-pawn cannot take that bishop. The c-pawn is pinned because of the rook versus the king. Queen d3, refusing to part with the c-pawn. Bishop back to c4 and queen d2 with 450 extra rating points. White is not going for a move repetition. c5 from Michael. Active play. King g3, knight d7. That knight needs to come back into the game. Knight e1. White is going to get the knight to d3, as we'll see. Knight b6, knight d3. Both sides have improved their knights in the last few moves. And Michael decided to take that knight. You can't take with the pawn to straighten out your pawn formation because the pawn is still pinned. So White took with the queen. c4 hitting the queen. Queen d2 and knight a4. That Black is better in this position is obvious if you look at the difference between the rooks. Rooks want to be on open files, not stuck behind their pawns, and White's rooks are really very, very passive, while Black rooks are enjoying themselves on the open B file. Black is better. And that's a great achievement against an opponent who's so much higher rated. The game goes on. Bishop d4 from White. a6 from Michael. King f3. Knight back to c5. And Black has a real threat now. Let's make a bad move for White. Let's just play something silly like king e3. Well, then there is knight b3. And this is the king of all forks. Forking all White's pieces. It's a pity you can only take one at a time. Black wins an exchange here. So that's the threat after knight c5. So White decided to take that knight. Rook takes and play a4. Black played his rook back to c8 with the idea to go back on that nice b file. Queen d4, rook cb8, king e3 and king f7. King d2 and now queen c7 is a good move for Black, keeping the white queen out of the Black position, and Black is still better here. But Michael played a bad move. This is move 38. Don't forget it was a 3-minute blitz game, so I'm sure both players were getting low on time here. He played rook 8 to b3 and still that c-pawn is pinned. But it's a bad move because now White infiltrates in Black's position. Queen a7 check. But this is an instructive moment because queen a7 check is not a good move. White should have prepared it with rook a2 b1 instead, which is a very nice move. It looks like it blunders a rook. The rook is only protected once and attacked by both Black rooks, but it's a very ingenious way to swap a pair of rooks. After rook takes b1 there is c takes b3. The c-pawn is suddenly not pinned anymore. Rook takes b3 and then queen a7 check. And as a pair of rooks is off the board, the queen cannot be challenged. The active queen is sufficient counterplay for White, and his position is about equal. Black is an extra pawn, but White's queen is really active. So after rook a to b3, rook a b1 should have been played. But as mentioned, White infiltrated with the queen straight away. And now the rook can come back to neutralize the queen. And White should go back to d4 here, and Black is better, but it's not easy to make progress. But here White made a mistake and played the queen to a8 instead, voluntarily cutting his own queen off. The queen is now out of the game. And Michael played it well. He played d4. He's going to attack White's king. g6 check. That pawn was taken. h takes check. And here, be very careful. Don't take the pawn, because then the queen comes back to life. Queen e8 check. Rook f7. Rook g1 check. Black is going to get checkmated here. King h7. Another check. King g6. And this is checkmate. And White has won this game. So be very careful. After h takes g6 check, you cannot take that pawn, as you get checkmated. And Black, Michael, in bad time trouble, saw this. He played king e7. Good move. Queen g8. White is desperately trying to activate the queen, but Black is quicker. Queen takes c3 check, attacking White's king. King d1, queen f3 check, king e1, another check, and king d2. And here Black missed a mate in 3, but we cannot blame Michael. This is move 46 in a 3-minute blitz game. The checkmate sequence is as follows. If you want to look for yourself for the mate in 3, put the video on pause and have a look. Queen f2 check does the business. King d1, queen f1 check, king d2, and checkmate with a pawn. Very nice checkmate. This is a pretty picture. But as said, Michael did not find his checkmate. After king d2 he played c3 check straight away. King e2, and he took that dangerous pawn on g6, taking any queen f7 check moves out of the position. It's a good practical move from Michael. He is winning easily now. Rook g1, and here queen h5 check is the move, and black is still winning. But Michael blundered after rook g1. He took on c2 with check. How can that be a bad move? Well, after king f1, there are no more checks, and suddenly black finds himself in big trouble. The computer move rook back to b8, giving up that rook, followed by queen h6 is the only way to continue. Black will then be a rook down, but apparently, according to the engine, has enough counterplay against white's exposed king. So black would have had to play rook b8 here to keep the game going, but that's an impossible move to find. So back to the game. After rook takes c2 check, king f1 was the move, and suddenly white is better. But white didn't find it. He played king f3, and now everything is okay again for Michael. There's a mate in two in the position. Queen h5 check, rook g4, and checkmate. What a game. For a 3-minute blitz game, this was a game of very high quality. And Michael did exactly what he said in his introduction. He made the game messy. He was not afraid of his opponent, didn't try to swap pieces. He went for a very complex game, made very healthy moves. White played very passively with his rooks. Black enjoyed the open b-file for his rooks. Black gave up a pawn, won it back, and then after many adventures was able to checkmate the white king. What a game! Well played, Michael, and thank you very much for sharing this game so I could share it with the Chess to Impress community. I hope everybody enjoyed this game. I certainly did. And what about our game? Rick against the Chess to Impress viewers. I'm playing white, you are playing black. Let's play through the moves. We have arrived at move 19. And I am ganging up on your a-pawn with my last move, rook f1 to a1. I'm attacking your poor a6 pawn now with 3 pieces. The 2 rooks and the bishop. It's only protected twice. And let's see what you came up with on your 19th move. 16 viewers submitted a move. Half of those wanted to protect that a6 pawn with knight d7 to b8. 4 players developed the bishop to b7. 3 wanted to play the king to h7. And 1 viewer decided to give up the king's bishop and take on c3. Giving up the bishop for that knight on c3. But as mentioned, half of the votes were for knight d7 to b8, defending that pawn a 3rd time. So now it's my turn. What to do here? I cannot put more pressure on the a6 pawn. And what I have been thinking about is that your break move, the break move for black here is f7, f5. That's probably the only break move in the position. And I want to make that move more difficult for you to achieve. So my move is bishop e2 to d3. Getting more control over the f5 square. And it is your turn again. What would you play here with black on the 20th move? You can take part in this game by putting your move in the comment section underneath this video. By doing so, you will be in the raffle. At the end of the game, I will raffle a chess book made available by my sponsor, The Beste Zet, amongst the viewers who have taken part in this game. It's a very rich position, a very complex game, really exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing your entries and deliberations for your 20th move. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. If you would like your game to be analyzed on the Chess to Impress channel, then send it to me by email to classroomchess64@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.